Hello all, welcome to another edition of the Citizen NFL Podcast. I'm Justin Ritzel, your host, joined by Robert Harding and Chris Sciria,
That's right.
who are full of hot takes following the NFL trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
But first off, how are you guys doing?
Pretty good. My team is doing pretty well, and Chris's isn't, so that's
Hold
what I
on,
want.
whoa. What's the Bills' record?
5-2.
What's the Dolphins' record?
Who cares?
Who cares? All right, folks, for the record, it's 4-3. We're one game behind the Bills.
Oh, come on.
Ooh, horrible year. You lose your starting quarterback
After
in the
that-
first week of training camp.
After that dog game you guys
It was a
played last
dog
week.
game, yes. I think that's the one thing that came out of last week's podcast was, dog game. It was the doggest of dog games. I give you that. So there we go.
I mean, I don't think the Ravens thought it was a dog game. They were probably pretty happy with it.
They were flying,
the Ravens
they were
ball.
flying high.
And fortunately, Joe Flacco's supposed to play this week, so
Yeah.
so I guess he didn't get hit too hard.
Oh, here we go.
There was no suspension.
Oh, here we go.
There was no suspension. Okay, I mean, look.
Hashtag Homer
He hit
take.
him. Look, oh yeah, if a Bill player did that, you'd
Well,
be doing the
it
same
was a
thing.
Bill player in a sense. It's
Yeah.
a former Bill player.
And
I have his
who's-
jersey.
Robert has
I'm
his
not-
jersey. Yeah, there
I'm
we
not
go.
biased here.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, well, enough about that dog game.
All right.
But we got some interesting trades that went on this week, and Robert, your Buffalo Bills were part of two big ones.
Indeed.
Figure first we'll talk about Marcel Darius getting dealt to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Got moved for a 6th-round pick. I think it's fair to say that this was a trade to be expected. He hasn't really clicked with Sean McDermott this year, and just what's your take on it? Were you at all surprised that this move happened?
Not really. I think that, for the Bills, they get a couple things out of it, which is, one, on the field, he didn't really fit in. I think the last game he played with the Bills, and I believe I'm correct on this, he played the most snaps, and yet it was still under 50% of the total snaps for the game. So, just the way that McDermott's defense is, you're cycling in defensive linemen a lot. He wasn't going to play very many downs, even though he's, quite capable of playing both, in run defense and pass defense. He's a solid interior pass rusher, but, he just didn't fit in with the scheme in the end, and I think that played a big part in it. But the other part of it is that he made way too much money. I think his salary for this year was $16.5 million. That's a lot of dough to be thrown into one player. He was easily one of the highest paid players on the team. The Bills, while they're in a kind of a surprising scenario where they're, in contention this year, they're also planning for the future, and, you can't really plan very well if, one guy who really doesn't play that much is sucking up that much money. So, for those two reasons, I think it was a smart move, and, in Jacksonville, he'll probably get a little bit more time, and, he'll be in a better position, even though he'll miss chicken wings, it sounds like. So.
Yeah, well, I can understand that.
All right. I want to ask you just how you view his time with the Bills. But first I'm going to throw out there who was drafted the same year as Darius was. So he got taken 3rd overall by the Bills in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Here is kind of the rest of the top of that first round. So 1st overall was Cam Newton. 2nd was Von Miller. 4th was A.J. Green. 5th, Patrick Peterson. 6th, Julio Jones. 9th, Tyron Smith for the Cowboys, the tackle. And then 11th was J.J. Watt.
Yeah.
You hear a lot of names there. Tell me what you think of Darius and his time with the Bills.
Well, when you put it that way, I won't say that he's a bust. I think he's clearly showed that
He had a couple Pro Bowls. I mean,
yeah, he's a guy that I think he really succeeded when Jim Schwartz came in, and of course, Darius wasn't the only one that was part of that defensive line. They had Mario Williams, Kyle Williams was there then, of course, and Jerry Hughes, his rise really helped as well. But I do think that he's had other factors at play here too that sometimes his work ethic can be called into question. And then he's had some off the field issues that have generated interest. So I think he has potential to be an all pro every year. I think it's there. He can play. He's not just a guy who can play on passing downs or running downs. He can do it all. Fully capable of being three down defensive lineman. The question is, can he do that still? As he demonstrated a few years ago, that remains to be seen. I think that in Jacksonville's scheme, he could be successful. He could definitely thrive in that system. But again, he's got to execute, and that's what's been lacking the last couple of years in Buffalo.
I think looking back at drafts like that are just so it's obviously all in hindsight, but it's so interesting because I did a little blog post. It wasn't little; it was very long. I was bored. I was bored one day, looking back at that 2011 draft, and obviously, like I said, Newton goes first overall, but that was actually, everybody was expecting that was going to be the year Andrew Luck came out of college. He was finishing up his junior year,
right.
And he would have been the first overall pick, which pushes guys back a little bit, obviously. He decided to stay back at Stanford and return for his senior year. But you think about it, if he decides to come out that year, I remember reading that the Broncos were kind of set on taking Von Miller number 2. So you're looking at Cam Newton as the Bills quarterback. I know Tyrod Taylor is gaining popularity, but
yeah,
that's got to be a little disappointing.
Yeah. I'm fine with it.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
We'll come back to the Bills' other trade in a minute here, but obviously, Chris, your team made a big deal too. Jay Ajayi is no longer with the Dolphins. He is with the Philadelphia Eagles, and in return, you get a 4th-round pick. What were you? I know you've been pretty vocal about Adam Gase and him calling out the players and stuff.
Right.
And I guess were you at all shocked by this deal?
I was surprised. I mean, I don't know how you can be. He singled out Ajayi, of course, without naming him, but he talked about the running backs, and realistically, Ajayi was the lone Dolphins running back. So he called him out, and fairly or unfairly, you could say that he's the scapegoat for the Dolphins' offensive woes, and he's been dealt to the Eagles. I mean, for Ajayi, it's a great move. He goes to a team that's 7-1 and is the NFC's top team right now. For the Dolphins, like I said, I think it got the rest of the players' attention. I was reading some of the quotes from the locker room yesterday, and I think that it definitely woke these guys up. They're like, look, if we don't do it Coach Gase's way, we are going to be gone. And part of me as a fan is like, that's the way it should be. I mean, you're professionals, you're being paid money. The coach says, take the playbook home and learn it, or you need to do more work to do better. You should be doing it. You shouldn't have to be castigated in the media or publicly embarrassed or or even the threat of a trade. You should automatically be working as hard as you can to do the best that you can. So, like I said, from that standpoint, I feel bad for Ajayi leaving because I think he was a solid running back. But on the other hand, I think that you can find good running backs very easily. I mean, Ajayi was a 5th-round draft pick. And, Miami got a 4th-round pick for him. So now we go to Kenyon Drake and Damian Williams, and both those guys have shown flashes of brilliance. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I think I don't like to see great players be traded. But I think on the other hand, sometimes if a player is not in with the program, he's not doing what he's told to do, if he's causing issues in the locker room, or he's not listening to the coach, he's getting into it with the coaches, then I think you need to cut him loose.
So you mentioned how obviously the Dolphins are 4-3. I think it's fair to say that's a deceiving 4-3. I don't think they've played like a 4-3 team.
I'll agree with you. Sure.
Do you think? Do you think this trade is like you mentioned? Is it more of a just they're just trying to send a message and they still expect to win this year, or do you think this is the Dolphins kind of saying, you know what, maybe this isn't our year, maybe we just don't have it. Let's accumulate a draft pick and look ahead a little bit.
I look at it this way. Last year they were 1-4, and they barely beat the Browns in overtime to win their first game. Okay, so they were 1-4. And I think you could say what you just said about last year. Like, look, first year, new coach, they're 1-4. You know, you weren't expected to make the playoffs anyways. Just go through the motions and get a good draft pick, and you know. But, you know, they stepped up. They won 8 in a row. Obviously, Ajayi was a major part of that. Although, if you look at his stats, it's funny, his stats are a little deceiving. If he didn't have a 200-yard game, he really didn't do that well. It was either like the really big games or he really did not do that well.
Oh, now you're catching on to the talking point.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, been saying that for a year.
I'm just saying that Jay Ajayi was not the main reason why Miami won 8 in a row last year. To be honest with you, Ryan Tannehill was probably one of the major reasons why they did that. So from the standpoint of, I mean, they're 4-3. I don't think you give up on the season yet, because I think you've got some good players here, and I think you owe it to them to try to win. And, you know, I think there's some talent on that offense, and I think if they can get the offensive line playing better and Cutler can continue to improve and the defense plays what it's capable of, I think they got a shot. I mean, look, at the beginning of the season, I think I said they were going to win maybe 8 to 9 wins. I think I said between 8 and 10, so I said about 9. Well, they're still on a pace to win about 9 games. I mean, this isn't a Super Bowl contender by any means. I'm not even beginning to even think that. But I think what happened is that when Tannehill went down and Cutler came in, a lot of fans, and I'll say I was one of them, thought like, here we go. We got an experienced veteran quarterback who knows the system. We're gonna cruise and we're gonna be in the playoffs. And it didn't turn out that way, because obviously other issues have come up, like the offensive line. So we'll see what happens.
You really thought Jay Cutler was that good?
I thought that he had a good year with Gase 2 years ago. I wasn't expecting him to be the second coming of Earl Morrall, okay? You can look that one up, history, good people. I didn't think he was going to be the second coming of Jim Plunkett, okay? I thought that he was going to play slightly above average, that with the talent that they have in the wide receiver group there with Landry and Parker and Kenny Stills, that those 3 guys, I mean, those are I think that's three of the best receivers in the NFL if you look at them as a group, okay? The sum of their parts. It's one of the best threesomes that you can have there for wide receivers. So it's disappointing the offense has not played better, but I think, like Gase said, that players are not doing the homework. They're not doing the things they need to do, and I think this week, I'm hoping we're going to see a different Dolphin offense, because when you score no points, you can't get any worse. They can't do any worse than no points. So I want to think that they're going to do better, and I'm hoping that it's going to be significantly better.
So 2 field goals? Or?
I knew you were going to say that. I know. I can see it. Come next Monday, I come walking in, Miami loses 40-3, and Robert goes, "Hey, the offense played better."
Progress.
There we go.
Progress.
So,
yeah.
All right. So
let's see if the Miami offense cannot also give away 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, the funny thing is everybody thought Matt Moore was going to be the savior, and it didn't turn out to be that way, but that's not a surprise. That's
Baltimore is a tough place to play.
Absolutely, and it was a short week, too. I mean, I think that had something to do with it as well, but it's all moot because it's going to be Jay Cutler on Sunday night.
All right, so obviously the trade deadline was Tuesday at 4 o'clock. At about 3:57, Adam Schefter tweets out that Carolina Panthers wide receiver Kelvin Benjamin has been traded to the Buffalo Bills. And I had the honor of being the one to tell you, Robert, about the trade.
Indeed.
And the smile on your face was reminiscent of a 10-year-old kid on Christmas Day.
Yeah. Certainly wasn't a dog trade, I'll tell you that.
Whoa. Let's let them play a game first, okay? Before we start saying, not a dog trade, let's let the guy put the jersey on for the first time before we start ranking this as a great trade, okay? I mean, on paper, it's a very good trade. I'll give you that, but let's see what happens.
Trade.
Let's see what happens. Oh, boy, you're really pushing your luck there, aren't you?
Well, I think the real question is, Robert, have you bought your Kelvin Benjamin jersey?
Yeah, there we go.
not yet.
No,
I do have a Stevie Johnson jersey, so I could just
maybe they'll
do a
take
job.
maybe they'll take the Kiko as a trade in.
Good point.
But look, it's a good trade for the Bills, no doubt about it. No jokes aside, but irregardless, let's see what happens when the guy actually starts playing. Because remember, Tyrod Taylor actually has to get the ball to him. Okay, that's the X factor. Can Tyrod Taylor get the ball to a solid wide receiver?
Well, he's no Matt Moore, so I mean,
I was listening to another podcast. I won't name them because they're all competition to us. But
it's true.
Benjamin's not. He's not a burner. He's a big dude. He's he's a glorified possession receiver, who's just going to be a guy you can throw the ball up to and he'll go get it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously Cam Newton is not the most accurate guy, and Benjamin had a lot of success with him. Fair to say Tyrod Taylor is not Mr. Accuracy either.
Hey, quit snickering over
But in a way, Benjamin is like the perfect kind of receiver for Tyrod Taylor because you just throw it in his direction and let him go make a play.
Yeah. Catch radius is what they call it.
Yeah, that's the hot word.
Oh, look at you.
What?
Mr. Analytics over
Well, that's Devontae Parker, man. That's when Miami drafted Devontae Parker. He's got great catch radius. That's like saying your quarterback can't throw the ball accurately, so we're gonna draft a guy that can run all over the place and jump up and pull it down. And of course, he's gonna get absolutely slammed and everything. But that's the way it goes. All right.
What was your question?
What do you think this trade can do for Tyrod? Because this is going to be the best receiver he's had since Watkins was healthy. So
yeah, which was for 5 games. But I think it's a great trade for that reason. Because one thing about Tyrod is that when he has a good receiver, and I think Kelvin Benjamin's a pretty good receiver. I know that there's been talk, he doesn't separate, all this other stuff. Yeah, but he's got the size, and that really helps. I mean, he's got some level of speed. He's a big guy. What he lacks in separation, he makes up for in size. How many 6'5", 230-pound cornerbacks are out there that are going to be able to defend him? It's just not going to happen. So I think that will help, especially in the red zone, because one of the challenges, I think, and this is especially true with Charles Clay out, is that you don't really have a big target in the red zone. Andre Holmes kind of fits that mold, but he's not exactly a top level receiver like Kelvin Benjamin is. So having that option, I think, adds another layer to the red zone offense, which should help. And it's another target. And I think too it benefits Zay Jones. Takes a little pressure off Zay Jones. You already have Jordan Matthews on the team. You have Kelvin Benjamin. You make him kind of a third receiver. Let him work over the middle a little bit. He showed last week that he's fully capable of doing that, and takes a little pressure off him. It wasn't that long ago he was the number 1 guy, so it'll help.
It's funny how one trade really changes, because they've gotten nothing out of Matthews so far because he's just been hurt. Mm-hmm. He's supposed to be coming back soon, so it's almost you're adding 2 receivers who are both. I think Matthews was also a first-round pick. He was at least a 2nd-round pick. Yeah. So, but you're adding two high draft picks and 1 foul swoop basically.
Yeah.
So I'd say the most shocking deal of the trade deadline was the Patriots moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo, shipping him off to San Francisco,
and not trading him to Miami. Some of Shearer's buddies was talking about that. So.
Just in general, and you guys can go in whatever direction you want, whether this is from the Patriots side, the 49ers side, just from a league standpoint. But what was both your guys' first reaction when you heard this trade?
It was a little bit of a surprise. I'll give you that. But I think when you look at it, when you break it down, you're like, hey, look, the Patriots know that this guy is going to leave via free agency. So let's get something for him. And I think the biggest shock was, the bigger shock was just that he went to San Francisco. Because I think a lot of people thought Cleveland, because Cleveland and New England do have a trade history. I don't think anybody thought it was going to be San Francisco. So I think that was the biggest surprise. Maybe Denver would have been a good place for him. I mean, if Denver had the picks the package, but considering they got him for a second rounder, I mean, and I'll say one more thing. I mean, look, like I said about the Benjamin trade. I mean, let's see what the guy can actually do when he starts playing. Well, Garoppolo, look, he played well last year. Okay, in those 3 games he played well, but it's 3 games. Okay, 3 games. I mean, a lot of guys have played well for 3 games. Doesn't mean you're going to be a Hall of Famer.
Even Jay Cutler's had 3 good games in his career.
There you go. All right.
Maybe not in a row.
Right.
But
All
I was going to say Matt Moore.
How's Aaron Rodgers' surgery going? All right. So listen.
Wow.
I mean, I think look for the Niners.
Savage.
Look, man, I'm not going to take these shots laying down. For the Niners, it's a great. I mean, look, it's a great trade because you're using a second-round draft pick on a quarterback who's got potential. And look, they're 0-8 right now. They're 0-7. They're going to get it. They're going to have a top 3 pick probably in the draft. Yeah. So now they don't have to give up their number 1. They can use that number 1 pick on an impact player, on maybe on defense they need, or a wide receiver, or running back, or whatever else they need. They've got their quarterback for the future. And I wouldn't even play him. I really would not even play him that much this year. There's really no need. Seriously, it's not like you're a contender. I mean, okay, yeah, put him when he learns the offense. Maybe like at the beginning of December, put him in a little bit. But I mean, this is your future, and I don't know about you, but I don't think it makes sense to ruin your future for the present when you want to save him for the future. So
when you stink. Yeah.
Kyle Shanahan has said as much. He said there's no promises that he'll see the field this year. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. You bring up next year's draft. As we talked about before, it's a quarterback-heavy draft, supposedly. Who knows? They could just ship whatever high pick they have for a team that is desperate for a quarterback. Mm-hmm. Time will tell. Robert, from the Patriots' standpoint, kind of weird. It's like you're putting all your eggs in the 40-year-old quarterback basket.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what the statement they're sending here is that we believe that Tom Brady. Because the thing with Garoppolo is that he's 25. So if Brady's 40 now, if Brady plays until he's 45, like
not playing until he's 45, no way. I know what he's saying.
He's saying that.
He's saying it. No, it's not going to happen.
And if it happens, Garoppolo's 30. Mm-hmm. I mean, do you really want to turn your franchise over to a guy who's 30 who, really doesn't have starting experience? He's been a backup. I mean. Yeah, he's kind of in his prime at that point, but what is his prime? You don't really know. He hasn't seen the field that much, so that's and you don't know how long he'll play for or how long he'll be good for. So I think for the Patriots, this was a move more to really make it clear, maybe to Tom Brady, maybe to the league that. Tom Brady's our guy for the foreseeable future. He says he's going to be here. We trust that he's going to be here. I don't think they would have made this move if he were to leave in the next couple of years. I think they would have kept Garoppolo. I mean, the nice thing is here they get a high second-round pick out of it. So Belichick certainly will benefit from that. He'll find some defensive player to take, I'm sure, there to shore up that side of the ball. But yeah, from the Patriots standpoint, I think that's really the big part of it. That Brady is our guy. We know that he's going to be around here for some length of time. We're going to worry about a future quarterback further down the line.
You mentioned yesterday, I think it was yesterday or the day before, about how you don't think, from stuff you've read, that Bill Belichick was super pumped about making this trade.
Yeah, there was some chatter out there that the person who pulled the trigger on this was actually Bob Kraft, which is interesting, and that kind of Brady's feelings about the situation played into it because you can kind of see it from Belichick's perspective. If Chris is right and Brady doesn't play that long, who are you going to turn the reins over? Brian Hoyer? Come on.
No. Well, remember, they do have another second-round draft pick.
Sure.
And,
sure.
I mean, look, it's supposed to be a quarterback-rich draft next season. So I think if the Patriots see someone they really like, then I think they'll make a move. Because you figure, I think Brady definitely plays another definitely next year. I think after that, I think in 2019 is when we start to say, yeah, maybe he's not going to come back. I really think that he's not going to play till he's 45, okay? He's not the second coming of George Blanda, okay? And remember,
Steve DeBerg.
Well, I'll tell you this. Those guys were part-time players when they got to be that age. George Blanda was not a starting quarterback in the NFL when he was at the end of his career. He was a kicker because he scored the most points in NFL history till a few years ago when the record was broken. But also, he was a reliever. He basically came in and relieved Kenny Stabler when Kenny Stabler was first starting for the Raiders. Okay, I don't think a 45-year-old man. I don't care how well conditioned he is. I don't care if he's eating kale and Brussels sprouts for his entire diet. No, it's not. And I mean, I don't care, man. Look, you can be in great shape, but you're taking shots. Okay, it's not like he's running a marathon. Okay, he's getting hit by big guys through 250, 280, 300-pound and larger dudes, okay? When you're getting hit hard, okay, and you're 40-something years old, I'm telling you, man, you're going to feel it. Speaking of someone who just turned 50, okay, I feel things more now than I used to when I was younger, okay?
You were limping around the office yesterday.
And I'm better today, aren't I? You don't see me limping.
Oh.
I'm healed.
Arthritis comes in?
No, it's not arthritis. It's a sore foot. Anyways, I'm just saying that I don't think Tom Brady plays till he's 45. I would say definitely next year. But after that, I think it's maybe, maybe not, you know.
I mean, he would know better than anybody. All it takes is one hit for you to get replaced.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, he's obviously played more great games in recent history than he has played bad games. But, you know, every time he does have a bad game, it's natural to say, right, like, when maybe this is it.
Yeah.
I mean, he was, when they played Houston in the divisional round last year, Tom Brady was not good.
No.
He looked like a 39-year-old quarterback. If the Texans had any sort of guy not named Brock Osweiler, maybe they win that game, and the Patriots don't win a Super Bowl last year.
Oh, if they had Deshaun Watson last year, they would have won that game.
Yeah, they win the game. I mean, there's been talk of Brady having a concussion in the Super Bowl last year that he played through that he shouldn't have. So, you know, all it takes is one bad hit. That's whether you're 40 years old or whether you're 25.
I mean, everything can change on one play. We've seen it. We've seen players, I mean, you know, you come down bad on your knee. I mean, on your ankle. Look at that player for the Bears last week. I mean, he goes up, he comes down, the leg twists. Next thing you know, it's like, hey, we're trying to save this guy's leg.
Potentially life-changing injury.
That's what I mean. Injury. So, I mean, literally in the blink of an eye, your entire, not just your career, but your life can change.
Speaking of injuries, this is what professionals call a segue. We received some big news about an hour ago before we started recording. The Colts announced that they are placing Andrew Luck on IR. He is done for the year.
Stunned. Mm-hmm. That's not enough surprise.
So did you guys see this coming? I mean, he started the season on the PUP. Or no, he did not start the season on the PUP.
They didn't put him on, yeah. No.
So that means at the time the Colts felt he had a chance to play in the first 6 weeks. He obviously didn't. He started feeling some soreness, and they decided to shut him down.
It's not a surprise.
Well, I mean, I'm going to throw this out there. Long term, are you guys concerned about Andrew Luck?
Interesting. From the standpoint of, I remember Drew Brees hurt his shoulder and a rotator cuff, and there was talk whether he was ever going to be the player that he was, and why he didn't get signed by Miami when he went to New Orleans. I think when you're talking any type of shoulder injury in a quarterback, you have to be very careful. I think the Colts are being very cautious. I mean, look, I think if the Colts were having a good season, I think they probably would still be waiting to see, but because that's a dumpster fire in Indy right now, I think they just decided to do the safe thing. There's really nothing to gain by playing Andrew Luck this season. So shut him down, let him heal completely. He doesn't throw the football anywhere, he can rest, and hopefully next year he will be completely healed.
Yeah, the Colts, I think they see the writing on the wall, and you know, really, you don't want to rush anything, especially with a shoulder injury, and just give it. You know, he had the surgery in January. He really hasn't shown any progress. He got to the point where they started testing his arm, and it just didn't work. He was too sore. So that says to me that there's something more there. They might have to go back and look at that, and he maybe needs to have another surgery. I don't know. It could be that bad.
Ian Rappaport was one of the guys who reported the news, and he said right now another surgery is not something they're looking at, but they're going to just focus on rehab. But if it's even being brought up, I mean, you have to consider the possibility that this could go into next season.
Yeah, I mean the thing with him is that he's been banged up a lot over the last couple years, and this is something now he's missed he'll miss an entire season, and this is something that you want to get right. You don't want to miss any more time. So the earlier that you address it, the better, because maybe if you do determine that he needs another surgery, then you go from there and you get it done sooner rather than later, so that he can be ready by training camp and the start of the season. But it's an interesting scenario for them, because obviously he's a key part of their plans, and he's still a great quarterback. But really they need to build around him. They haven't had much of a defense the last couple of years, and
offensive line's horrible.
The offensive line's terrible. So if they're going to keep him healthy, they're going to want to they're going to want to shore up that line. So lose the rest of the season, tank for a good pick, and build around him.
Yeah, it's this is a guy who was billed as being the next great quarterback when he came out for the draft, and he said, I think disappointing is a bit of a strong word to describe his career so far, but depending on your perspective, he might not even be the best quarterback of his draft class, depending on what you think of Russell Wilson.
I think it's true. I think it's I mean, I think some of it is out of his control.
Russell Wilson won a Super Bowl. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, and Andrew Luck did get to an AFC Championship game. I mean, they got blown out by the Patriots, but he did get it. And remember that comeback against the Chiefs? That was pretty good. I mean, look, I think it's too early to judge Andrew Luck's career, because again, he's had a bad offensive line, which hasn't helped.
I mean, and the reason why they brought in a new GM this year is because the old GM was running the worst front office in the league.
And it takes time to rebuild, no doubt about it. So I think it's too early to write off Andrew Luck yet. But if he doesn't come back from this injury, then it was a horrible situation there. But still, it's too early to tell.
When did he sign his new contract? He hasn't played a game under his new deal, right?
I think it was was it last year, or was it the year before that?
Why am I thinking it was this past winter?
Well, you figured if he was drafted in 2012, right? So 2012, 13, 14. So 15 would have been the last year of his rookie deal. They're 4-year deals. So you figure it's probably 2015.
First rounders are 5-year.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah. So it must have been it was probably last year.
Yeah, it was. I just looked it up. It was last year. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and I mean, last year for the Colts certainly wasn't a banner year either. So yeah, they really haven't had much time with him, at least in recent years, and they just need to build up more pieces. They, especially on offense. I mean, they're pretty thin with offensive weapons too. So it's something that they're going to need to really overhaul that team. Gregson did a terrible job with that team. That was quite the downhill slide. So.
And they spent like high picks on wide receivers, and none of them were.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Dante Moncrief is kind of whatever. He's average. They traded Philip Dorsett to the Patriots, and he's done nothing there. So that's. I mean, we were talking earlier about Marcel, Darius, and what you think of the 2011 draft, but the Colts don't have any of those problems because they just totally missed on every good player.
Yeah.
But all right, we'll wrap it up there. By the time anyone hears this, the Bills may be 6-2. They may be 5-3, only a half game over the Dolphins. I'm sure that's what Chris is hoping for.
I don't know.
Well, it'll all be for naught on Sunday.
One thing, you don't worry about the competition.
When the Dolphins are 4-4.
Yeah, you just go out and win your games, and don't worry what anybody else does.
That's all right. The Packers will be 4-4 too.
There's the optimism.
We'll close up there. I don't want to continue after Chris's shot at Aaron Rodgers.
Sorry, man. I had to respond. Nothing personal.
We'll be back next week with, I'm sure there will be more huge NFL news. There always is. We'll be back with the Citizen NFL podcast. I'm Justin Ritzel. For Robert Harding, Chris Sciria. Next time.